All right, so before we start our sheet setup, we need to make sure that we've got pores attached to everything. Um, so let's go ahead and turn off anything on the O1 pore. And what we can see is that there are these elements that we had added in here that are supposed to be on the O1 pore, but we didn't get a chance to do it. So we're going to remember that this is element type 1 for building 1, O1, O1, right? Um, and let's make sure that on these, there's only a single element. Okay, so we can go ahead and take the views for those walls. We're going to call it 1, 00, 01. All right, so now we should have everything on a different pore, and we can check that, and we can check and make sure, maybe change the colors of these things. Boom, done. Look at that. Very nice. Looks like everything is on there. Nothing's been unassigned, and we can start setting up our views. So what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a scope box for building 1. It's in view, I believe. Scope box, and we'll call this building 1. Okay, but we need to make sure that it has the right elevation. You see how it's a little bit too, it's not far enough down, and it's also a little bit too tall. And we don't want to see level 2 in there, right? Let's make sure that it's a little bit below level 2. Ever so slightly below level 2. Nice. Okay, great. So now let's go ahead and take this, take level 1, duplicate this, and we're going to put this on, let's say, 00 ribs, and we can put this on building 1 plan. And let's go ahead and just set up our view. Now we don't want to see 01 on here because that's all correct. And let's also just add 02 in case we decide we need it in the future. We can do type element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think since these buildings are independent of each other, that's probably not necessary. But let's say sheet number does not begin with G1 in case any other sections or anything like that comes up. And I think that might be all that we need here. Let's also create one that's called grid does not begin with 1 point. So we're just going to focus on grids here. Oops. Grid name does not begin with 1 point. So you'll need to create that for your views. Because what I don't want to see is I don't want to see the grids from other buildings on here. Now on this, we're going to say that for these, we want to make sure that we have that showing up. And is this the one where we did we turn off lines here? Oh, it would be in the model categories. We do still want to see lines and everything. Let's go ahead and show everything actually. That's perfectly fine. Except there is one thing that we don't want to see, and those are scope boxes. All right, great. Let's also remember that we want to turn off the okay. So we're going to call this ribs building 1. Actually, let's call it building 1 ribs plan. Boom, done. All right, now let's go ahead and, well, let's leave this for now. And let's go ahead and duplicate this, and we're going to create our slab plane. So we want to put this on G5 slab, and then we want to update our filters here to be correct. Whereas this one, clear that, make it 100% transparent. Oh, it would help if I turn the visibility on. Now look at that. Now, the one thing we do want to do on these ribs, and actually let's, because we're seeing these columns here as well, let's cut our plane. I think it was 7 foot something up, so let's make it 8 foot or something like that. So the one thing is that we've got all of these things, and it's adding a lot of kind of dark lines to our building. So let's select all of these, select all instances visible in view, and let's override the graphics on them so that their projection lines are just this sort of dark gray. You see how that's going to be, we can tell that that's going to be a little bit easier to read. Select all instances. No. We can see that already these are becoming a little bit easier to read, right? And some of these things are still kind of crazy in here. Some of them are a bit difficult. Yeah. And we're never going to be able to get it perfect, but it is what it is. And I think, oh, there might be one more here. Right, like that. Select all instances in view. It's probably the only one. And then we have this little weird one right here. Did we not? I think we overrode that. I think it's showing up because of this rib here, but it should be that. Let's see here. Let's say if we say cut lines on this, does that make a difference? No. Yeah, unfortunately that one we may not be able to get, but because if we try and override the projection lines, it's going to do it for everything there. And we want this one still show up black. So we'll just leave it for now, and I think it'll be perfectly fine. Let's see what's going on with all of this here. It looks like this might be something due to that's to the rib. Well, if it's not doing what we want, we can always hide them. Well, maybe we can't. Let's try this. Let's try disallowing the join there. So what is that? It's this little 11-inch curve that's causing us problems there. There it is. Now let's go back and find our rib, and let's allow that join. There we go. Looking a lot better now. Are we having any issues over here? How things look? No. Overall, it looks like generally things might be okay. But again, we can see there's these little spots that we want them to not show the lines, right? So let's make sure we're going through and doing invisible lines on places like those. I see how that looks a lot cleaner now that we've gone through and hidden those. Are there any other places that we want to do that? Maybe here, because this is supposed to be something we can't really see, which is fine. There we go. And I think that we might be set up there. The only thing that we do want to make sure that we're doing is that not only do we not want a sheet number that does not begin with G1, we want a sheet number that does not contain 0.01, right? Because that's the slab sheet. So if we have a view on the rib sheet, we might want to make sure that it's not showing up on the slab sheet. Let's do the same for the rib sheet. Sheet number does not contain 0.00 on these. Okay, so now that we have these two, I don't know why I'm looking at that one. Now that we have these two, I believe this is the building one slab plan, we want to go through and create our view templates. So let's create a view template from current view, and I'm going to call this lift slab plan temp. And the reason that I want to do that, there is another slab plan temp, I suppose, that we could use, is that when you create yours, you can just use the view template that I created, right? You can come in, you can say lift slab plan temp, right? But the problem is that you're going to want to change some of these filters. The sheet number does not begin with G1. You want to change out the grid does not begin with G1. And so when you create yours, you're going to put it back to none. But what it'll do, doing this process, will help you to create your, put all your filters in there, and then all you have to do is adjust them. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to call this lift ribs plan temp. Right? And we want to say okay. Well, I guess it doesn't lift ribs plan temp. We say apply and then none. All right. So in the next videos, we'll work on setting up our 3D views as well. And then we also want to start taking a look at potentially adding colors to these plans.